Mannie Fresh just gave some of the best advice for musicians. Check this out.
I always say, and I can't stress it enough, don't do homeboy business. Homeboy business will always go bad. And what that means is if you're going to get a manager, get a manager. If you're going to get a lawyer, get a lawyer. Your friend cannot be your manager. He can't be your lawyer. He can't, get people that really do things, because, and if you're with a company that don't want you to have them things, then maybe you shouldn't be with that company. And one of the things that, with us, with Cash Money was we were all young. We made a lot of mistakes, like on both sides. Them, me, and all of us. And we luckily, by the grace of God, we got together and talked about it and ironed it out. All of that could have been prevented by just getting the right people to do the right things. And people always think that, this is my boy or this is my crew. They'll never do that. You don't know that when money starts. When money come, things change, people change.
He is 1,000% correct. Because I went through it personally. I ain't gonna lie, I went through it personally, and I did some things in my biggest situation that I definitely learned from. Number one is that things have to be done by people who are not directly related to you in no form, no way. You can't do it. Like a lot of momagers, fathergers, cousins, relatives who are trying to take care of your career, I'm telling you, in maybe 99% of the times, it is going to be bad because you have people who put their heart in front of business. Now, I'm not saying that these people don't care about you. Don't get me wrong. These people may care about you and be willing to lay down their lives for you. But that's the heart side of business. You can't tie that in there with business at all. You cannot make any business decisions with the heart. You can't do that. I can love somebody to death, but I cannot make business decisions with the heart. You cannot confuse that with business. You have to have people that make sound decisions on the feeling of what is going on and what is right and what is wrong and off of experience. The homeboy can't do it. The homegirl can't do it. The dude you grew up with can't do it. But there are some people out here who are actually industry people who can do it, who have a little bit of sense in the industry. Now, I'm not saying that every manager makes all the best moves. Don't get me wrong. It's people that have been doing this thing for 15, 20, 30 years, deep in the music business, that has made mistakes. So everybody's going to make mistakes. But usually somebody who has been in the game for that long can actually kind of read the environment and say, hey, I've been through this before. We might need to go this way. And if it doesn't work, then we can go to this option right here. And if that doesn't work, then we can go to this option and then we'll still be cool. People who don't know how to do that, who don't know how to navigate that, it will completely destroy a whole situation. That's why some of the best managers out here you never see. Because they know that it's not about them being the person that needs to be seen. It's about the person that is handling the business. Trust me, when I was managing Silento, I was on the road. And there was a lot of things that I did right. And there was a lot of things that I did that was wrong. There were certain things that I thought that was right, but was wrong. Luckily, I did more right than I did wrong because I was actually being mentored while I was on the road by some very good people that were in the industry. And they were telling me, hey, I wouldn't do this, I would do that. And, I think you should take care of this. And one thing I can give a huge shout out to is my booking agent at the time, because when we were on the road traveling and stuff like that, we would get on the phone and he would come up with some ideas and say, hey, I think we should do it this way. And, we should maybe try this, or okay, instead of doing this date, we need to do this. How about you talk to label and let's do this and do that? And it all flowed so good. It flowed perfectly. And then there was some times where I had to go off a particular feeling. Even though that the artist wanted to do certain things, it was certain times where I had to say no. There was times where, particularly there was one time where we did a song and the song was sitting for like 3 years. Nobody really cut the record like that. It was just sitting. And then the label played it for me and I was like, hey, it's cool. It's a cool record. We can cut it, but it's all good. And we cut the record. The label loved the record. And it actually turned out to be a pretty decent record. I didn't think it was going to be, his second big single, but they felt that it was going to be a big record. And you know what? I say, you know what? Instead of me trying to go against it, the label likes it. Let's try to figure this thing out. Let's try to make this thing work. But even though that song was sitting for 3 years and we cut it, and all of a sudden the label wants to, go and throw all this money behind it and make this thing a huge situation, the producer of the song and the writers of the song acted like we couldn't get not one piece of publishing on the record. They didn't even want to talk to the lawyers. They didn't want to do nothing. They wanted to just shut the whole situation down. No publishing on the record. So that means that we would have only gotten paid the mechanicals on the record, and that is it. That's it. And I had to make a conscious decision. I'm like, hold on. So, we can get the lawyers involved. This and that. Well, nah, and it was crazy because I was talking to the producer and everything. Everything was cool. We was talking through email. We went to the studio. Everything was cool. I was at the studio where, he was adding in words and, giving his ideas and thoughts on the song. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, okay, at least give him 10%. Give him 10% of the record and we're cool. The record's been sitting for a while. You should be happy. They're finna turn this into a single. But me not knowing, the label was already talking to the producer, already getting ready to send payments. And I think they already sent payments already. And they were gearing up for this stuff because they thought I was just going to say yes to the situation. And then what happened was they were trying to convince me to say, yes, let's go ahead and put the single out. But I was like, no, we haven't discussed the publishing yet. And then when it came down to it, and I'm trying to talk to the producer about the publishing, he sends me to another guy who's, I guess, his business manager, and I can't get in touch with nobody now except the business manager, and they send back, it's like, yeah, we can't give up any publishing on the song. It's, there's no publishing to be given up on this. Like, I'm just gullible, and I'm not going to just say, no to the situation. So the label's calling me, and they're like, hey, let's go ahead and run the song. I'm like, no, we're not doing it. And it's like, the silence it was just quiet on the phone. And like A&R was stuttering like, so you don't want to do it? And in the back of my mind, I was like, hold on. They already probably paid this guy already, thinking that I was just going to say yes. And they're probably thinking, oh yeah, Bolo's just going to say, yeah, it's cool. I said, no. I said, that song was sitting for 3 years. Nobody wanted the song. And all of a sudden we get the song, we cut it. The label wants to make it a single. And then now all of a sudden we can't get into publishing for a song that was dead in the water, that still to this day has never came out. Nobody's ever cut it past that point. Nah. Whole situation went down, all because of people's greed. And even though as an artist, I know he was kind of like, man, we could have put the song out. We could have still did this and did that. No, we're not going to get played out here. And even past that point, the label was still trying to work with him to get him in with other big, big artists and get him in there with big producers and everything. But when that situation came about, I had to trust my gut rather than leading with my heart in that situation. I knew something wasn't right. And I think people thought, oh man, he doesn't know any better. But when I talked to my big homie that's been in the game, that was actually a bigger producer than him, he was like, oh, nah, don't do it. Nah, they're trying to screw you over. So I'm kind of glad in that situation, everything kind of worked out, because if anybody else, like if a Homeboy or somebody else, they would have took the money and be like, oh yeah, let's just have the label go ahead and send us our advance. We're going to be fine. No, we're not doing that. We're both good. Everything is straight. We're good. So there was some tough decisions I had to make. And that's why the situation, even though it was basically one song or two, basically, but it was still that big. And that's why the song is still where it's at, because there was a lot of decisions that, were made that were not made from the homeboy or the home, because there was a whole bunch of people telling him all type of stuff. Oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. And these people don't know anything about the music business. They never had any dealings with it. And then that's why situations ultimately die out. Because just like Mannie Fresh said, they made mistakes, but all they came together and they talked about it and they worked it out. Because one thing that would kill any situation when it comes to this homeboy, homegirl, my family, this, that, whatever, is money. When money comes into the equation, everything just goes downhill, because I don't know what it is about artists with money. They feel like, you were just an artist. You're still the same person, it's just your bank account is different. It does not mean you're the king of the hill just because your bank account is different. You still piss the same, you still shit the same, you still bleed the same, you still the same person. But these people get in their head that money makes them the kings or queens of everything. And every decision has to come through me because I got the money. A lot of times it's the temporary money, because a lot of times the artists spend the money so much. They spend it so much, so fast. Like they can get 20 grand and spend that literally in 20 minutes sometimes. So really, they're not even thinking about the future. They're just thinking about everything is from that point. And then they just think that they're just the royalty from that point. And then you got to deal with that. And a lot of times family and friends fall out, especially when artists come into money and they start treating these people different. And then now you're looking at it like, oh, this is my homeboy or whatever. This is my homegirl or whatever. And they treating you different all because of money. That's where experienced people come in and know how to deal with that situation. Like, let's say, for instance, basketball coaches. A lot of people don't understand how great Phil Jackson was, not just by running the triangle offense. He was great because he knew how to deal with stars. He knew how to deal with star players. That's what made him a great coach. He knew how to make star players comfortable in a situation. If Dennis Rodman wanted to go to Vegas for 3 or 4 days, let Dennis go. He's a star. We need him. Let him clear his mind. Let him do whatever. Even though you got Michael Jordan on the team, at that time, one of the best players ever, which I still think LeBron is the best player that ever graced the court, but we're not going to get into that. But Michael Jordan, in his prime, the Bulls winning multiple championships, him, Scotty, Dennis, that three-headed monster on the court. Dennis Rodman just leaves. And everybody's looking at Phil like, what are you doing that for? Because he understands how to deal with that. Some coaches be like, no, Dennis, you got to stay here. You got to be here for the team. You have to know how to manage that. And that's the same way it goes right now for even NFL teams. You have to know how to manage these stars. And even with these college players, with these NIL deals, you got to know how to manage these players. The best coaches right now, they know how to bring out the best in players. And some of these players are making more than the coaches, but you have to know how to manage these players to still respect you in a way. And it's the same way that comes with this music industry. You have to find people that know how to manage the stars. And if you don't have that, you're going to have artists running rampant around here because they think they know what they're doing. And a lot of these artists have no clue of what to do because they have people that take care of everything for them. And then you get the whole entourage situation that starts coming about. Now you're trying to manage not just the artist, you're trying to manage the artist's entourage manager. Now you have the manager of the entourage talking to the manager, who's now talking to the label, but then the entourage manager is now on the phone with the manager and the label, and it gets really weird. So that's why I say for anybody in this music industry that gets any type of success or anything like that, understand that even though people love you and people may come up with you and your struggle and everything like that, it does not mean that you need to put certain people in certain positions. I know for a fact there were certain people when I was signing artists and stuff like that, there was certain artists that are pretty big right now that I was trying to get, and they had people in place that were not right. And there was so many words I was trying to tell them. I was like, I don't know, your people cool and everything, but I think you might need to. And I know it sounded like I was hating, but then, over time, maybe like 2 or 3 years later, those same people that were in that position, they're gone. And then you hear about them, and then they're talking about the situation. Oh yeah, they replaced me. They did this and did that, and they're wrong what they did. But a lot of times, the people that they had over them were not the people that was in their best interest. A lot of times, and that's the crazy thing about it. People may really care, but they don't really do things that's in the best of the interest of the artist, and does things that's going to make the artist a better artist, a bigger artist. A lot of times these people are not capable of doing that. So you have to be careful about who you let into your situation. Because I had to keep that situation airtight because there was vultures coming from everywhere, just looking for a quick buck. And my thing about it is I've always been a person that never looked about the quick dollar. I've always looked into the future with everything. That's the way I do everything. I don't move fast. I don't do quick things. I just do what I do. And I do it at my pace, because when you move too fast, you miss things. And I see people moving so fast because they see a quick dollar. Oh, we can make a quick 5,000 here. We can make a quick 10,000 here, rather than just waiting. And now you can start getting the 50 to 100,000 plays and stuff like that. And that's what I was about, because I knew what type of song that we had. You have a song called Whip Nay Nay, and it's so big. And now you have corporations, and some people are like, oh, you just did a free event for a corporation. Why would you do that? Because that's a favor. And then now the corporation will turn around and call us back for $50,000 or $60,000 just to perform one song for like 3 minutes, and then put us in the best hotel. And then we can do all the radio runs in that city, and then still meet up with more people. So now other people call us back for more corporate events, and we're doing that rather than we're doing these, little $6,000, $7,000 shows. And this is in the beginning. This is not even the final stage. This is not even the stuff that we were making later on down the line. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, there were certain moves that I knew that I wanted to make, but I knew there were certain things I had to do to get to those moves. And I know some people questioned it at first, but then at the end, a lot of people made a lot of money, So you got to be real careful out here. You got to make sure that when you get into certain situations, you make sure you get the right people around you. And sometimes it's people that are not your friends. And sometimes it's people that you might not like, because there's certain people that's going to be around you that's going to tell you things that you do not like. I know a lot of artists who do not like their managers personally, but they keep them because their managers keep things aligned and they consistently make their money, even though the artist just, oh, I hate this person, to say whatever. But the artist in the back of their mind knows this person is making the right moves for me, even though every time I try to ask for something, they always saying no. I want somebody to tell me yes. So yeah, go ahead and get your little yes man and your little crew, whatever. But so far as your manager, you need somebody that's going to tell you, nah, we're not doing that. And if you don't like what I'm doing, just fire me. And that's the way I always was. Like, hey, if you don't want me, go ahead and let me go. And I'm going to be honest with you, most of the people who did decide that, oh, we don't need Bolo, we don't need this and did that, you don't hear nothing about them. And then they always come back and they're like, oh man, we need to work this thing out, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's too late, I've already moved on. It's no amount of money that's going to get me to come back. That's just the way I am. But now I'm in a good place. Hey, I'm on YouTube now, so I really don't want to manage anybody or do anything like that. I got my 2 little artists right now. They're not little, but I got my 2 artists right now. But at the end of the day, even sometimes when they're like, hey, why are we doing it this way? It's just the way we got to do it. And if you don't like it, find somebody else. It's all good. No love lost. But once I'm done, I'm done. And that's the way people need to look at, finding people. You need to find people who are not thirsty for every single cent or dollar that's out there. You need to find people that's thirsty about success. And if you can find somebody like that as a musician, you're going to be in some good hands.